Okay, so it's time. Are you ready, Miss Yap?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'm going to put my palms together, encourage everyone to join me, and change the slide. Okay.
Yeah. Can I start now? 恭请大德圣听，为此法会及一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱失离苦得乐，速证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss, and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto sucheto ye alahati sanmiao sanputo che. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Hello everyone, welcome to class number 28 of the series on the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra. So today we are going to continue with our discussion on making offerings and how to benefit our ancestors, especially since the Buddha last week we found out that the Buddha said that it is impossible for let me phrase this correctly. Someone asked the Buddha, he said, if you make offerings and you dedicate you transfer the merit and the virtue of the offerings, the merit of the offerings to your dead relatives. And he said, is it possible that you will not have a dead relative who is not a hungry ghost? And basically the Buddha's answer was, no, it is impossible, given that when we define our ancestors in the Vinaya, it is at least 7 generations past our grandparents. The Buddha said it is impossible that you will not have a relative that's a hungry ghost, which means that this is a very important practice. And why we're spending so much time on this? Well, this is one way we can get as close as possible to Medicine Master Buddha's 11 vow through our own ways of interpreting and his 11 vow. I'm not saying that his 11 vow is restricted only to transferring the merit to ancestors or hungry ghosts. It's not only that, but that's one way we can try to get close to how what made him make this vow. Yeah. Okay, so before we continue, we're going to recite Medicine Master Buddha's name 7 times. I'm going to put my palms together and invite everyone to join me. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha Namo, quelling disasters, lending life, medicine master. 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 Buddha, medicine master, does come one. 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 You know, every time I recite Medicine Master Buddha's name in English in that tune, it brings me to, instantly I'm transported back to the Buddha Hall at CDTB, at the City of 10,000 Buddhas, because I have very fond memories of circumambulating the Buddha Hall in the morning ceremony at CDTB. When we circumambulate, this is what we recite. So instantly it brings me there. Okay, let me see. Okay, not yet. We had a request to finish the 32 hallmarks. So we will do that little by little at the end of every lecture, but not right now. Okay, let me share screen for this. Okay. Since we're on the 11th vow, we can continue. We will begin by reciting the 11th vow. I vow that in a future life when I attain Bodhi, I shall cause all sentient beings who are so plagued by hunger and thirst that they create all kinds of bad karma in their quest for food. Upon hearing my name and single-mindedly accepting and maintaining it, to be filled with delicious food and drink, and afterward, by means of the flavor of Dharma, to settle in ultimate peace and happiness. Okay. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so let me see. Ron has a question, and Ron's question is related. He says, Fasha, would a hungry ghost who is not our ancestor take the food offering instead? Let's see. Ron, I'm going to ask you this question, so you better pay attention. Towards the end of the class, once we've gone through the slides, let's see if you have any more questions, because during this week, we had some very interesting WhatsApp conversations about making the offerings, and if the offering is wrapped, can the hungry ghost, is the hungry ghost able to accept the offering, and whether through touch or not. So I think there's some confusion between the offering and the transference, and exactly the mechanism between when we make the offering and to how the hungry ghosts are able to accept. Okay, so but before we go there, I want to share with you what Shufu has to say about hungry ghosts. So Shufu says hungry ghosts enjoy hatred and anger, and they dislike kindness and compassion. So Shufu says this is a talk given at I think at CDTB in 1981. Shufu says there's 6 realms, and there's 3 good realms. Three good realms of gods, humans, and asuras. And then what's considered the 3 lower realms, or the 3 evil realms, are the animals, hungry ghosts, and then hell beings. Okay, so hell beings is in a separate category from hungry ghosts. Okay. In the same talk, Shifu also said that hungry ghosts undergo the retribution of constantly being scorched by fire. They are never comfortable at all. And then inside and outside of their bodies are on fire. They are fried incessantly by internal and external fire, suffering, and unspeakable pain. And then Shifu says, retribution for having had terrible tempers as people. They are burned day and night as ghosts, with no hope of respite or escape. However, if they get a little bit of nectar to eat, it will slightly relieve their burning agony. They are grateful for even 1 second of coolness. And so we can see that the consequences of good and evil follow us as unfailingly as a shadow follows its form. So she says we had better be careful. So careful of what? Careful of our own conduct. I have some stories, and the stories also explain the mechanism behind the transference and the act of the offering and the final benefit for the hungry ghost. Okay. Next slide is what Shufu talks about. This is not only hungry ghosts. Okay, Shufu is talking about the realm of ghosts, and this is from a publication that we have called the 10 Dharma Realms. Okay, Shufu says the realm of ghosts thrives on anger, confusing causes, blind to results. Their ignorance and delusion grow deeper every day. So, meaning ghosts are always very angry, they're very unreasonable. They are you can never satisfy someone like that. If you do this, they get angry. If you do the opposite, they get angry too. They're very unreasonable. Yeah. And because of their very, very strong emotion, it blinds them to be able to examine themselves and see how their own actions, their own speech, their own thoughts create their own results. So they're always blaming people out. They're always blaming, instead of self-examination, they're always blaming the environment, the people around them. And Shufu says because of this, that ignorance and delusion just grow deeper every day. They're just always very, very emotional. So Shufu says ghosts are masses of yin energy. Sometimes they appear, this is very interesting. So sometimes they appear as a shadow with no form or as a form with no shadow. Perhaps you have seen a dark shadow, but when you look closer, it disappeared. It says perhaps you have seen what looked like a person, but then that form vanished in the blink of an eye. It says these phenomena are not easy to understand. You know how sometimes in the corner of your eye, you think there's someone there, and then when you turn your head and there's no one, or how you say, in Asian countries, banana trees are always mistaken for people. And I have that experience too. Yeah, there's this tree. My family, we used to live in a place called Overseas Union Garden, Taman OUG, in Oakland Road in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And outside our house, there's this banana tree. It wasn't like a real banana tree. When I say real, meaning like the fruits are very small, the bananas are really small, and it seems a bit stunted. And the tree always made me feel, especially in the evening, like there was someone standing there instead of the tree. Yeah, it didn't make me feel spooky, but yeah, that's just how I felt. Okay. Shufu continues by saying the 10 Dharma realms are not beyond a single thought. A single thought creates the 10 Dharma realms. By conducting yourself like a ghost, you will fall into the realm of ghosts. So it says ghosts explode in a fiery rage easily and like to harbor hatred. When they are mistreated, they get angry, and even when treated well, they still get angry. That's being unreasonable. It says, what do they like best? Giving others trouble. If you treat them well, they bring you trouble. If you treat them badly, they also give you trouble. And Shifu also says, ghosts don't understand cause and effect. As a result, they can't tell good from bad. they don't know when is a decision that they make and an action that they take is wholesome or unwholesome. So Shifu says, if you plant a good cause, you reap a good result. You plant a bad cause, you reap a bad result. You plant melons, you get melons. You plant beans, you get beans. Says my ghosts don't understand this. Says they plant eggplant. Eggplant is Malaysia, we call it brinjal. You plant eggplant and anticipate eating hot peppers, or they plant hot peppers and think they will harvest cucumbers. Since they have no comprehension of cause and effect, they act recklessly and create chaos. Although this is a description for ghosts, but I think it applies to all of us as well, especially when we, how you say, at times when we are emotional, like we're really angry, or we really don't like someone, and all we want is to make things difficult for that person, and we become unreasonable. Then Shufu says that you are acting like a ghost. So that's what you want to check. And why you want to check that? Well, the stories that are coming next will tell you why you want to be really, really careful. Okay, so I'm seeing some really good questions in the chat box, which we will come to later. Okay, so time for some stories. Okay, so the first story is someone called, so these are all Dharma stories. These are all stories that come from the Dharma. So the first story is about Sona. Who is Sona? Sona was a very rich person. He was a disciple of the Buddha, and he was very rich. So as he was traveling with his caravans for trading, at night when they stopped to take a rest and to sleep, he found them to be too noisy. So he went to a different place. He moved down the road so he could find a quiet place, and so he can fall asleep. So he went to a large tree. In the sutras, it says it was a banyan tree. What's a banyan tree? You know, when we look at the 32 hallmarks, there's one of the hallmarks. It says that the Buddha's shoulder are as full and round as a banyan tree. So I have a photo. When we do the 32 hallmarks towards the end, remind me to show you. I don't remember what number it is. I have to find out, but I can show you. So he found this tree. Banyan tree is very, very big. And he found this tree, and then he saw this fat man, a very, very ugly fat man. And what was this man doing? He was tearing off his own flesh and eating it. So Sona asked, say, who are you? He says, oh, I am a hungry ghost. Hungry ghost in Pali is called Peta, P-E-T-A. I think we covered that last week. Peta, interestingly, comes from the word Prita. Let me see if I pronounce it right. Prita, which means ancestors in Pali. So the word hungry ghost is actually derived from the Pali word for ancestors. And that says a lot. That clue there, Ron, for your question, that says a lot in answering your question. So Sona was, how you say, I don't know why he didn't feel fear. Maybe he did. So he asked the man, he says, why are you doing this? So the man explained, he said, oh, this is because of my own karma. He said, in a past life, I used to be a dishonest merchant, and he would cheat people when he dealt with them. So he would cheat them of their give them different prices so he gets more money. And then he says, not only that, whenever I was approached by monks, I would tell them, instead of giving them food, I would say, why don't you go and eat your own flesh? So now, because of his past karma, he's born as a hungry ghost. And something compels him to pull his own flesh. He feeds himself through his own flesh. So Sona knew he couldn't sleep there. I mean, that's not a very good place to sleep. So he went further down the road, And guess what he saw further down the road? He saw two boys, and these two boys were also hungry ghosts, and they had black liquid. Their blood was black, and it was coming out from their mouths. They were bleeding from their mouths. So Sona also asked them, he says, who are you? Who are the two of you? And they said, oh, we are hungry ghosts. They're just little boys, but they were born as hungry ghosts. And then they said that in their past life, their family made a living by selling perfume. And then he said one day their mother was going to offer food to an Arhat monk. Because they didn't, the two boys didn't understand anything, they said, how can you, they scolded their mother. They said, how can you give our property away to these beggars? He said, may the food that you give to this monk turn to black blood in his mouth. So they said that because they did this, in the next life, they were actually reborn in the hells first. And when their karma in the hells were over, then they were reborn as a hungry ghost. So Sona, the rich merchant, after hearing for himself the retribution of the proof of cause and effect, and how life in samsara can be so fragile, he was so scared that the first thing he did in the next day was he went to Venerable Mahakachana and to request to leave home. So this is the story of Sona, the lay follower. Okay, the next, so the next story is the deer hunter. Okay, what is this deer hunter? So there was this landowner who had a wife, but the wife couldn't give birth. So the landowner then took a second wife because he wanted children to inherit his property. So when the second wife became pregnant, this first wife became really, really jealous. And what she did was she purposely poisoned the second wife so that she would have a miscarriage. So the second wife, in the second month of pregnancy, lost the baby. So people kind of suspected, that the first wife was behind all this. But when the husband confronted her, she swore. She said, if I'm guilty of this deed, may I eat the flesh of my own sons. When she knew she was guilty, she knew what she had done, but she still swore so that she can, so that people would think that she's innocent. So when she died, she was reborn as a hungry ghost, and then with a very ugly form to match her very ugly character. And she was, it was said that her body had a very, very bad odor. And as a result of this, a lot of flies would cover her body. And she didn't have any clothes to wear as well. Yeah. And that's not the worst thing. The worst thing is that every morning and every evening, she would give birth to 5 baby boys. So in the morning, she would give birth to 5 baby boys. And the evening, before sunset, during sunset, she would give birth to another 5 baby boys. But because of her karma, it says her heart burning and smoking with hunger. That means her hunger was so great. She could not, every time she gave birth to her own children, she would eat them all. And after eating them, she would still feel hungry. And then in the evening, she would eat her own children again, but the hunger would never be satisfied. At the same time, she never got anything to drink. So this was her retribution for causing her husband's second wife to get a miscarriage. Yeah. Okay, and then the third story is called the 2 wives. Okay, again, 2 wives. Okay, so let me see. where are my notes? Okay, so two wives. The names were Mata and Tisa. Let me see which is the first wife. Okay, it doesn't say. Okay, so again, same story. I'll go by the names. Tisa, one of the wives, was very faithful. She had a lot of patience and she was very nice to her husband. Whereas the other one, the other wife, her name was Mata, was a very angry person and also couldn't have any children. Yeah. Oh wait, let me see. Okay, let me read it and then I'm not sure if this story makes sense. Okay. Say a landowner of Savatthi had two wives, Mata and Tisa. Tisa was faithful, calm, and pleasant to her husband. Mata was faithless and angry and barren besides. When Mata gave birth to a son, Tisa became even more hostile to her rival and began to abuse her in various ways. So I think this is it was written wrongly. Okay, so Tisa is the good wife. Mata was the unfaithful wife, and then Tisa gave birth to a baby, and that caused Mata to be even more hostile than before. Okay, and then Mata died. So Mata passed away, and then one day Tisa saw a very, they said, a wretched, hungry ghost. And so Tisa asked this hungry ghost, say, "You're naked, you're ugly, you're covered in veins, your ribs are standing out. Say, who are you? And why are you standing there?" Then the hungry ghost spoke. He said, "Oh, I am Mata, or I used to be Mata. And I used to be your sister. We shared the same husband." And she said that because of my evil deeds, I've been born as a hungry ghost. Yeah. And she said, she said, I was violent, I was abusive, I was jealous, I was miserly, and I always scolded you. So because of that, I'm a hungry ghost. Then the good wife, Tisa, asked her, and said, "Why are you covered in dirt?" So she said, "Oh, there was one time when you had just taken a bath and you looked really clean and you were wearing nice clothes and you were talking. I saw you talking really nicely to our husband, and it made me so angry and jealous. So what I did was, behind you, I took a handful of dirt and I threw it over you, and because of that, I am now covered in dirt." So Tisa said, "Oh, okay." And she asked, she said, "But why are you covered with itchy scabs?" That means her skin was not was very itchy and had sores or scabs. So Misa, the hungry ghost, said, "Well, once when we were gathering herbs in the forest, and what I did was I took this particular plant. It's called the kapi kachu plant. This plant, apparently, when you put it on someone, it makes them itchy. So Misa confessed, Mata confessed, she said, "What I did was I took the plants and I sprinkled it on your bed to make you uncomfortable. So now the result is that she's covered in itchy scabs." Yeah. And then Tisa, the good wife, asked the hungry ghost, she says, "And why are you naked?" And she said, "Oh, there was once when we had a big party and our husband invited you, but he didn't invite me. So he says, without you knowing, I knew what clothes, the clothes that you were going to wear for the party. It was me who hid the clothes. So because of that, I am now naked." Okay, so these three stories have show us the cause and effect. If you act really unreasonable, you act in a very hostile way to people, basically if you act like a ghost, because that's the conduct of hungry ghosts, then the retribution is you end up as a hungry ghost. Okay, so now the next slide, we talk about offerings and hungry ghosts. So this one has two stories. It's about the hungry ghost or the petas outside the wall is a sutra. And the second one is about the weaver and his wife. Yeah. These two stories are important because it shows the mechanism behind the offering, the transference, and how the hungry ghosts get benefit. And for now, I'm going to leave you in suspense and take 3 minutes away from the microphone because I need to use the restroom. I've been drinking a lot of water because of my throat. So give me 2 minutes and I'll be back. Okay, let me talk. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay, so how this story starts? According to the Buddha, he says 92 kalpas ago. This was during a time of a Buddha called Pusa, Phussa, the Buddha Pusa. So during the Buddha Pusa's time, there were 3 royal princes, and they liked to support the Buddha and his monks. And because of the example that they because there were such good examples, a lot of the people in the city also became followers of the Buddha. But there were some people who really objected. They said, oh, we shouldn't be supporting the Buddha and the monks with the treasures that belong to the city. So what this group of people did was sometimes they tried to block the offering, sometimes they would take the food and eat it themselves instead of letting the Buddha and the monks get the food. And once they even burned down the dining hall that the Buddha and the monks would use. So the Buddha said, for 92 kalpas, this group of citizens continue in the round of rebirth. Okay, so they've been reborn and reborn and reborn in this space of 92 kalpas. The people who supported the Buddha and his monks, guess what? Every time they were reborn, they kept on being reborn in the heavens. Okay, but the other group who was not happy with the offerings, every single rebirth that they had was always in the hells. And in this present time, actually not the Shakyamuni Buddha's time, Buddha Kassapa time, they were reborn as hungry ghosts. So during Buddha Kassapa's time, they were reborn as hungry ghosts, and that's a really long time. Okay, 92 kalpas, they managed to escape from the hells, but as hungry ghosts. Okay. So during this time, because the Buddha was around, a lot of people make offerings to the Buddha just like before. And as these people made their offerings, they would dedicate or transfer the merit for their relatives, the departed relatives. And it is said that the hungry ghosts, who were past relatives of these people making the offerings, actually enjoyed, every time there was an offering made, these past relatives actually enjoyed heavenly pleasures. That's how it was described. However, not these hungry ghosts of our story. So they approached the Buddha Kashyapa, and they said, how can they too experience such happiness? He says, how come we have some hungry ghosts can enjoy these blessings through the existing relatives, but not them? So The Buddha gave them good news and bad news. Okay, so he gave them the bad news first. He said, now you cannot, unfortunately. He says, but in the future, there will be a Buddha called Gautama. That's Shakyamuni Buddha. So he says, in the future, when Shakyamuni Buddha comes into this world, he says, one of his followers will be named King Bimbisara. So who is this King Bimbisara? He was one of the princes of the city 92 kalpas ago. So he says, because King Bimbisara is one of your relatives or kinsmen, he says, King Bimbisara is going to make a huge offering to the Buddha. And when he dedicates the offering to you, then you will receive the benefits that you see the other hungry ghosts are getting right now. So it is said that when the hungry ghosts heard this, they were so happy, you would think that they were going to get the offerings the next day. That was how happy they were. All right. So fast forward to right now, okay, Shakyamuni Buddha's time. And King Bimbisara was going to make offerings to the Buddha. And the hungry ghosts, they remembered all those time from Buddha Kasyapa's time to now, they never forgot. So what they did was they came to the place where the king was making the offerings to the Buddha, and they were just waiting, because they've never had anything good at all for so long. None of their relatives made any offerings and dedicated it to them. So they saw the king making the offerings to the Buddha, and they waited, and they waited, and they waited, and they didn't get anything. So they felt so hopeless. Throughout the night, they were just crying and crying and crying. So somehow or other, the king was able to hear all these cries, and it really terrified him. So the next day, he went to ask the Buddha and to seek the Buddha's advice. He said, how come after I made the offering to you yesterday at night, all I could hear was these terrible cries? So the Buddha said, I said, do not fear. They're not here to harm you. Actually, these are your former relatives from a really long time ago who has now been reborn as hungry ghosts. And when you made that offering to me and the monks yesterday, they were waiting for you to dedicate the offerings, the merit to them. But because you didn't, they lost all hope. And that's why you heard their cries. So the king was very surprised. He said, can they receive a gift? And the Buddha said, yes, they can. So the king then, because, he's a good man. So he invited the Buddha for another offering the next day. And the Buddha agreed. So now, after he, so it goes like this. So the king first offered water to the Buddha. And as he was making the offering in his mind, he says, may this be for my kin. So they said that at that time, lotus ponds appeared for the hungry ghosts. And that enabled them to bathe, to drink. It took away their pain, their thirst, their tiredness, and their bodies became golden colored. Then the next thing the king offered was rice and food to the Buddha. And at the same time, he also, in his mind, said, may this be for my kin. And then at that very moment, heavenly food, not just regular food, not like the food that was offered to the Buddhas, but heavenly food appeared in front of the hungry ghosts, and they could actually eat the food. And it is said that they became fat. That's what heavenly food does to you. It makes you fat, even if you're a hungry ghost. And then the next offering, the king, after the food had been eaten, the king offered the Buddha cloth and and he said dwelling places, maybe meditation huts or a Buddha hall, places to sleep for the Buddha and the monks. And it is said that instantly for the hungry ghosts, they received heavenly garments, they received palaces, beds, bedding, everything decorated very well. And the Buddha, using his ability, he let the king see all these things that appeared in front of the hungry ghost, and which made the king really, really happy. So this is the sutta called the Tiro Kutta Petawatu Sutta, the hungry ghost outside the walls. Okay, so that's one. Okay, then we have the second one, which is the weaver and his wife. Okay, what's the weaver and his wife? So it says at one time there was a master weaver. What was a weaver? They make cloth. They take thread and they have machines, or not machines, looms and I don't know what you call it, equipment, and they weave thread into cloth. Yeah, and this master weaver was a devout follower of the Buddha. He was a disciple of the Buddha, but not his wife. Okay, his wife had no faith, was someone who was very unhappy, had wrong views, and was very stingy as well. So one day when the husband was preparing an offering of food and cloth to give to the monks, she scolded the husband saying, you know, why are you supporting people like that? You know, may all this food that you give to these monks become, become dung, pus, and blood. And may all the clothes that you give them turn into red hot iron plates. That was how unreasonable she was. Yeah. And so the weaver, if you fast forward a few years later, when the weaver died, he was reborn as a tree deva. What's a tree deva? A tree spirit. But not an ordinary tree spirit. Apparently he had great power. He was maybe like a king tree spirit of the forest. However, his wife became a hungry ghost. A hungry ghost who was naked, ugly, and the only thing she knew was hunger and thirst. So what she did was she wandered around. She saw this tree spirit. I'm not sure if she could recognize him as her former husband. The story does not say. But what she did was she begged for clothes and food from the tree spirit. So the tree spirit offered her heavenly food. But as soon as she tried to eat it, it became dung and pus and blood. Remember, she cursed her husband and the monks when her husband wanted to give food. So this tree spirit tried to give her clothes instead. But when she put it on, instantly she cried and she had to throw it away because it burned her. It said that the clothes became a blazing sheet of iron, just as how she cursed the monks. So she couldn't do anything. She just walked away. Really sad. And after this incident, the tree spirit saw a monk. So the tree spirit assumed a human form. He had powers. He turned himself into appeared as a human, and then he he welcomed this monk. He paid his respects, and he offered the monk a seat. And then the story goes as this was happening, the hungry ghost came back and again asked for food and drink. And the tree spirit again gave her food. She asked for food and clothes. The tree spirit did the same thing. He offered her the food that he had, and he offered her the clothes that he had as well. But the same thing happened. The food turned into dung, pus, and blood, and the clothes burned her instead. So the tree spirit asked the monk, he said, is there any way to help her or to free her from being a hungry ghost? So the monk said, yes. He says, if one makes a gift to the Buddha, the Sangha, or even to one bhikkhu and dedicates it to her, and if she rejoices in the offering, then she will be freed from her suffering. So a new thing in this story is, if the hungry ghost rejoices in the offering, then she will be freed from her suffering. So upon hearing this, the tree spirit offered the food and drink to the monk. He didn't offer food and drink and the clothes to the hungry ghost. He offered it to the monk, but instead he dedicated whatever merit from the act to the hungry ghost instead. So just like the previous story, instantly she received the deva food. She became plump and satisfied and very happy. And she also received the clothes, and it was said that she appeared like a heavenly maiden instead. Okay, so what can we learn from these stories? Okay, it is useless to try to give anything directly to a hungry ghost. Okay, it says for transference of merit to be effective, there has to be three factors. Three things have to be present. First, a gift is given to a suitable field of merit. So in the last story, the monk explained that what's a field of merit, either the Buddha, the Sangha, the collective monks, or a single bhikkhu. And then the second factor is that the donor, whoever is making the offerings, in his mind, you have to dedicate it to the hungry ghost. You can't just think that it will happen by itself if you don't intend it to happen. Okay, so number two is you have to dedicate it. And then number three is that the hungry ghost has to, generate happiness or rejoice so that they can, benefit from the offering, so that it can be complete. So if you all remember the Ulambana Sutra, okay, just like this story, Venerable Mahamoggallana found out that his mother was reborn as a hungry ghost, and he tried to offer her food, but it turned into hot coals in her mouth. And he went to the Buddha, and the Buddha said, the only way is if you make an offering to the Sangha. And then, which he did, and it saved his mother, and not just his mother, but all beings. What was I going to say? Okay, let's get back to the factors. If I can remember what I'm going to say now, I'll say it later. Okay, so a gift is given to a suitable field in the sash that monks and nuns wear is called a field of merit. That's why the cloth, if you observe, we have 5-piece sash, 7-piece, 11 and higher. If you are, say, the abbot of a monastery, it is to symbolize a farmer's field, a field of blessings or merit, like a what do you call it, paddy field where you plant rice. Yeah. Okay. Number two, if you do not dedicate, or in your mind, your intention of doing it is not for the hungry ghost or your ancestors, then they don't get the benefit. Okay. Yeah. And finally, the important part is that the hungry ghosts themselves. Okay, now I remember what I wanted to say is this: the hungry ghosts themselves must rejoice in the act, which is why I think in the Ulambana Sutta or Ulambana Sutra, the Buddha said, give it to the collective monks. So I think for someone in that realm, in the realm of hungry ghosts, when they see many people making great offerings to benefit all the monks, the chances of them being able to feel happy or rejoice in that, so that they can overcome their strong emotions, is greater. So I think that's why the Ulambana Day is so important, because when you give collectively to all the Sangha, that's why the power is so great. It's not that the power, how you say, the significance of that is able to generate happiness, even in hungry ghosts. Yeah. So from the aspect of cause and effect, rejoicing is a very positive act of karma, and it is the only good thing that a hungry ghost can do. In fact, it is said that because their lives are so wretched and their state of mind is so, how you say, they are so consumed by suffering that the only way they can gain merit themselves is by rejoicing. Yeah, because they have no other means to create merit or blessings. Yeah. Okay. 5 minutes left, or slightly more than 5 minutes. I look at some questions. Okay. So Ron says, would a hungry ghost who is not our ancestor take the food offering instead? Well, the Buddha says it is impossible that in the realm of hungry ghosts, you do not have an ancestor. So I guess the question more to take your question and knowing what the Buddha has said would be, which hungry ghost would be able to take the offering? So I think that would depend on the scope of your mind. How do we include beings who are suffering, like Medicine Master Buddha's 11 vows? How do we include beings who are suffering in our hearts, so that as many of them can benefit from our offering? That's one. Yeah. And then Ms. Yap's question: if offering are made at home to our ancestor. Okay, so now we know you don't make an offering directly to hungry ghosts or to your ancestors. What you do is you make the offering to people who generate. In the sutras, it would say the Buddha, the Buddha, the Sangha, or to monks and nuns. That's what the sutras say. For me, if you, like the Bodhisattva, is able to regard all living beings as Buddhas, then every act of generosity that you make, you can always transfer the merit to your ancestors and to hungry ghosts. So basically everything wholesome that you do, you can always in your mind transfer it to them. But if you really want to make sure, then like Ulambana festival, the day when we celebrate Ulambana, and every time you support Triple Jewel, printing sutras, studying, reciting the Buddha's name, all those, you can transfer the merit to ancestors. And then Ron says, is it dangerous to make offering to hungry ghosts when they are unstable and act? Well, apparently they can't really harm you. And those that if you have contact with, they're just your relatives who are so desperate for any help that they can get. I'm not sure if anyone has ever been, how you say, you're in a position where you really need help, and you need help so badly that how you say, anyone you have a relationship with, you will try to get help. You will look through your name cards, your phone book, your phone, to see if there's anyone who you could possibly ask for help. So if you look at how hungry ghosts exist, they exist in a really miserable existence, and the only thing that can help them are us, people who are still living, who hopefully for them are still mindful of ancestors. So yeah, let me see. We are only on slide 11. I have 29 slides prepared for today. The next slide I have is actually about making offerings of animals. Maybe I'll keep that for another time. Let's go to 32 hallmarks. Okay, 32 hallmarks. All right. So I think we covered number 17, but let's do number 17 again. So hallmark number 17 is the 7 places distinctive and full. How do you get this hallmark number 17? It says that you give encouragement regarding the points of the Dharma. That means you use what you understand from the Dharma to make people want to practice, to transform their bad habits, and to help other people, for example. That's one way. And then if you are a giver of fine food, drinks, then if you're generous with food and drink, basically, then this is one hallmark that you will get. Yeah. Okay, let me look for the one with the banyan tree. Okay, level 3 thighs, upper torso. Is it this one? 19. Oh, okay, number 21. Okay, let me skip to 21. Okay, can you see that? Full and round shoulders like the banyan tree. This is hallmark number 21. And let me see if I can increase that so people can see the tree. Oh. Okay, everyone see that? That's a banyan tree. That tree is probably, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That tree is at least 60 to 80 feet tall and also 60 to 80 feet wide. Yeah, you can see that it covers the whole street. So that's a banyan tree. Okay, go back to normal size. Go to number 18. Okay, hallmark number 18 is that the Buddha has well-filled underarms. I think that if you do as you say, you are not a hypocrite, then this is your reward. You get well-filled underarms. Okay, all right. Question time. Doesn't Earth Store Sutra say if we dedicate merit only to relatives, then we get 3 lives of happiness? But if we dedicate merit of our offerings to all living beings, we get 1,000 lives of happiness? Yes, Gwen, I'm really glad you brought this up because I have it in front of me. Okay, let me highlight and let me increase the size. So this is what Gwen is referring to. Maybe. Okay. This is an excerpt from the Earth Store Sutra. It says, this is the Buddha speaking. It says, if in the future, good men or good women may plant good roots in the Buddha Dharma by giving, making offerings, preparing stupas or monasteries, rebinding sutras, or doing other good deeds, amounting to no more than a strand of hair, a mote of dust, a grain of sand, or a drop of water. Okay, what is this? Anything you do that's good, that's wholesome, it can be a really small deed, meaning you don't have to be a rich person. You don't have to have money to be able to generate merit. Okay, that's what this means. So it can be a very, very small thing. Okay, Buddha says, merely by transferring the merit from such deeds to the Dharma realm, those people's meritorious virtues will enable them to enjoy superior and wonderful bliss for hundreds of thousands of lives. If they dedicate the merit only to their immediate or extended families or to their own personal benefit, then the rewards received will only be 3 lives of happiness. So by giving up one, a 10,000-fold reward is obtained. So it is, Earth Store, the circumstances involved in the causes and conditions of giving are like that. So Gwen, this is slightly different. It concerns offering, but this is where the Mahayana, this is, to me, this is what defines Mahayana. Theravada is seen as the small vehicle. Mahayana is seen as the big vehicle or the large vehicle. What makes it large? Your heart. If you are able to open up your heart and treat all living beings like how you would want yourself to be treated, if you are able to see all men and treat them as your father, if you have, okay, I'm assuming you have good relationships, you know, for someone who has good relationships with their parents, if you see all women in the same age or around the same age as your mom and treat them accordingly, you see all younger people as your brothers and sisters or as your children and treat them with the same care and respect, loving kindness, then you're able to open up your heart and do what is, let me highlight it, transferring the merit from such deeds to the Dharma realm. So what does the Dharma realm mean? Everywhere you go, you are able to treat people the same. That's what it means, Dharma realm. You go downtown, you can treat every single person you meet with care and respect. You go uptown, you go somewhere else, your neighbor, your school, your home, everyone that you meet, you can treat the same. Then the Buddha said, anything you dedicate the merit to all these people, your reward will be wonderful bliss for hundreds of thousands of lives. But if your Kung Fu or your skill is not quite there yet, and when you transfer merit, how to know if your transference of merit is big? Look at how you treat people. So if someone can really transfer merit to the entire Dharma realm, it means everywhere they go, every person they meet, they treat them like they are the Buddhas. Then everything they transfer is as if they had offered it to the Buddha. But most people can only do that for people you care for, your family, your friends, your relatives, maybe not even all of them, you know. So then, because your heart, the scope of your heart is not so great, the relationships that you can maintain with all living beings is not great either. And so your the reward from your transference is not so vast. This is how I see this section of Earth Store Sutra when they say transference to the Dharma realm. Okay, so if you want to know how wide your transference is, ask yourself, how do you regard living beings? Animals, people, insects, how do you treat all of them? All right. And okay, another question. Do we need to mention hungry ghosts or just mention to all beings sentient? That you have to figure out yourself. It depends on your your intention in your heart. Everyone would do it differently. Some people visualize. Intention is a very abstract thing. So for everyone, it's going to be different. Okay, Gwen says, dedicate to Dharma realm, receive hundreds of thousands of lives of happiness. Oh yeah, okay, sorry, there is a lives of happiness. Thank you. This is missing in my text. Okay, yeah. Thanks, Gwen. All right, okay, so time to dedicate merit. Let me pull up my slide. Okay, so I hope everyone is clear now about making the mechanism behind making offerings and how that translates to our ancestors benefiting from our transference. Okay, so don't be afraid of making offerings. Okay. May every living being, our minds as one and ready. Oh, okay. Oh, what happened? Okay, hold on. I lost the screen. Sorry, my PowerPoint, it just closed by itself. I had to open it again. Okay, got it. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may their minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, everyone, thank you for joining us. We will see you next week. Amrita